The story we tell ourselves, the epic hero's journey through cognitive dissonance. Have you ever made a choice that left a quiet, persistent fingerprint on your conscience? Not the sharp sting of immediate regret, but a low, humming vibration of unease that lingers in the background of your thoughts for days. Have you ever found yourself passionately defending a decision to friends or rehearsing arguments in the shower, only to feel a subtle, hollow space within those very words? This friction, this mental itch that defies easy scratching, is far more than simple doubt. It is the palpable signal of a fundamental, relentless psychological law in motion within you. It is the audible creaking of your mind's architecture as it strains to hold two contradictory truths in the same space. This is cognitive dissonance, the profound and transformative theory pioneered by psychologist Leon Festinger. It meticulously describes the excruciating, motivational tension that erupts when we hold two or more mutually exclusive beliefs, ideas, or values, or, more commonly, when our observable actions commit treason against our most cherished internal self-image. This tension is not a passive state of being. It is an active, psychological engine that roars to life in the face of inconsistency. It demands resolution with the urgency of a primal need. And the critical crossroads we face, the path of comfortable self-deception versus the rugged trail of courageous, authentic change, fundamentally dictates the very trajectory of our character and personal evolution. This is not merely an academic lesson in social psychology. This is the detailed, universal map of an intimate hero's journey, a saga of conflict and resolution that plays out on the silent, sprawling stage of your mind, not once in a lifetime, but in 1,000 subtle ways every single day. Our epic begins, as all timeless stories do, in the tranquil, ordered, ordinary world. Here, our hero, let's envision her as Maya, exists in a state of psychological equilibrium. She possesses a stable, coherent, and comforting internal narrative about who she is at her core. She is a health-conscious individual who values vitality and longevity. She is an ethically minded consumer who is deeply concerned about her environmental footprint and the human cost of her purchases. She is a supportive, compassionate partner who prioritizes kindness and patience in her relationships. This curated self-concept is her psychological anchor, a personal mythology that brings profound order, predictability, and a sense of moral continuity to her life. She exists in a state of consonance, a harmonious symphony where her deeply held beliefs and her daily behaviors play in the same key. It is a comfortable, if often unexamined piece, the Shire before the adventure calls. The call to adventure in this profound internal saga is never heralded by fanfare or a clarion call. It is, instead, a whisper of contradiction that slips through the cracks of a perfectly ordinary moment. For Maya, it happens not on a battlefield, but on a mundane Tuesday. Maya, the health advocate who has known the dangers of smoking since childhood, finds herself at a stressful networking work event. Amidst the anxiety and social pressure, she accepts a cigarette from a colleague and smokes it. The first puff creates the initial fissure. Later, Maya, the ethical consumer who believes fiercely in fair labor practices and sustainable production, is scrolling online. Drawn by a trending style and a steep discount, she impulsively clicks buy on a cheap, fast fashion sweater from a brand with a notorious record. The click echoes with dissonance. At home, Maya, the supportive partner, exhausted and frayed, snaps with uncharacteristic sharpness at her significant other over a trivial matter, her words contradicting her foundational identity as a source of kindness and patience. In each of these seemingly minor moments, a hairline crack appears in the seamless marble facade of her self-story. Leon Festinger's seminal genius was to identify and name the seismic activity this crack generates. The human brain, he revealed, possesses a central, driving need for internal consistency, a need almost as powerful as those for safety or sustenance. When this consistency violently shatters, when the core belief, I am a healthy person, collides head-on with the reality, I am consciously poisoning my lungs, a powerful, visceral psychic alarm is triggered. This is the explosive birth of dissonance, an aversive state of psychological arousal that manifests as anxiety, guilt, shame, or a simple profound unease. The adventure has been irrevocably issued. The first threshold is crossed not by stepping through a physical gate, but in the fleeting moment Maya becomes consciously aware, even if only for a heartbeat, of this glaring inner conflict. The immediate instinctive reaction is often a fierce refusal of the call. We actively ignore the psychic itch. We dismiss the action as a meaningless one-off, an anomaly that doesn't count. We bury the contradiction under a suffocating blanket of busyness, distraction, or rationalization. It was just one cigarette. Everyone shops there sometimes. I was just tired. It didn't mean anything. But Festinger's research revealed a crucial truth. The dissonance does not simply vanish. It lingers in the subconscious, a psychic splinter that the mind cannot tolerate indefinitely. To continue living with this magnitude of inconsistency is a form of psychological torture for the ego. Thus, the hero is inevitably pulled, often against her better judgment, into the belly of the whale, the dark, labyrinthine, and profoundly creative realm of self-justification. Here, the conscious mind undergoes a metamorphosis. It becomes a masterful storyteller, weaving new narratives, a shrewd defense attorney constructing airtight cases, and a cunning spin doctor reframing reality, all employed in the singular, desperate service of one client, the fragile ego. The mission is no longer the pursuit of objective truth or personal growth. The sole objective is to restore comfort, to reduce the agonizing dissonance at any cost. This descent into self-justification is where we encounter the strange allies, tests, and shape-shifting enemies of the internal journey. Festinger and the generations of researchers who followed meticulously mapped the vast arsenal of mental tactics we unconsciously employ, a toolkit for psychological self-preservation. Maya, in the days following her cigarette, might engage in changing the problematic cognition. She might actively seek out or overweight information that minimizes the risk. Actually, the science on smoking is always changing. I read about someone's healthy centenarian grandpa who smoked a pipe every day. She systematically alters her belief about the action to make it fit her self-view. After her fast fashion purchase arrives, she might engage in adding new, justifying cognitions. She tells herself, "I've been so responsible with my budget lately. I deserve this little treat. It's self-care. And besides, my one small purchase is a drop in the ocean. It won't actually change the unethical practices of a global corporation." Here, she introduces new, psychologically heavier beliefs to counterbalance and outweigh the dissonant one. When reflecting on her sharp words to her partner, she might trivialize the conflict entirely. "Good grief, everyone has bad days and loses their temper. It was nothing. They know how much I love them. It's not a big deal." She strategically diminishes the importance of the dissonant act, making it psychologically insignificant. However, the most potent, perilous, and fascinating strategy is the act of doubling down. This is the true approach to the inmost cave of the psyche. Festinger and his colleagues witnessed this dramatic phenomenon in their famous real-world study of a doomsday cult. When the group's deeply held prophecy that a flying saucer would rescue them from a global flood on a specific date failed spectacularly, the cult members were confronted with catastrophic, undeniable dissonance. Their profound, life-altering faith versus an immutable, unpredicted reality. Their response was not to abandon their belief system. Paradoxically, they amplified it. They became more fervent, more public, and more proselytizing, convincing themselves that it was their intense devotion and faithfulness that had, in fact, averted the apocalypse, saving the entire world. Their increased commitment became the ultimate psychological shield against a truth that would have completely annihilated their worldview. In our daily lives, we see this principle in the investor who averages down, pouring more money into a plummeting stock to avoid admitting the initial investment was flawed. We see it in the individual who, after making a significant personal sacrifice for a cause or a relationship, elevates the value of that cause or person to sacred, unquestionable status, making the sacrifice seem not just reasonable, but noble and essential. The central, brutal ordeal of this internal journey, arrives at a point of maximum, unsustainable tension. The psychic cost of perpetual self-justification becomes exhausting. The mental gymnastics required to maintain the fiction grow too elaborate. The lies one must tell oneself become too glaring to ignore in the quiet moments of the night. The gap between the person you profoundly believe you are and the person your accumulated actions reveal you to be widens into a chasm that can no longer be leaped with a flimsy bridge of excuses. For Maya, this moment of reckoning could be catalyzed by many things. A concerning health scare that brings the smoking habit into terrifying focus. Watching a heartbreaking documentary about the brutal conditions in garment factories, seeing the human face behind her sweater. Or witnessing a genuine, sustained look of hurt and distance in her partner's eyes. A look that finally cuts through the noise of her own busy justifications. This is the moment of the supreme sacrifice. The old, simple, perfect self-story, the statue of a consistently flawless identity, must be allowed to die. It is a painful, ego-deflating death, for it requires the humble, courageous admission of personal fallibility, hypocrisy, and error to the one person it is hardest to fool, oneself. If the hero finds the immense courage to face this ordeal, to stare into the chasm of her own inconsistency, she finally seizes the true reward, authentic integrity. Not the cheap, performative integrity of never making a mistake, but the earned, hard-won integrity of consciously working to align one's future actions with one's deepest values. This is the process of atonement, literally the act of making the fractured self at one. Maya resolves the dissonance not by continuing to twist her beliefs into psychological pretzels, but by initiating change in her behavior. She commits to quitting smoking, seeks resources, and tells a friend for accountability. She researches ethical brands, imposes a personal spending rule, or donates an equivalent amount to a labor rights organization. She offers her partner a heartfelt, vulnerable apology without caveats, and actively practices mindfulness or stress management techniques. She chooses the path of behavioral change, which is invariably harder, messier, and more demanding in the short term, but leads to the only genuine, long-term liberation. The road back is the lifelong practice of integrating this hard-earned wisdom. The hero learns the vital skill of tolerating dissonance, of letting that uncomfortable feeling sit in the room with her long enough to truly listen to its message, rather than instantly silencing it with the first available justification. She begins to understand that this mental tension is not a malevolent enemy to be vanquished on sight, but a crucial internal compass. Its needle, however uncomfortable, points with uncanny accuracy to the precise areas where her life is out of alignment with her soul. The ultimate elixir she brings back to her ordinary world is not a fairy tale state of perfect, permanent harmony. That is a childish fantasy. The elixir is the masterful skill of using dissonance as an indispensable guide for continual growth. She cultivates the habit of pausing when that familiar unease creeps in, and asking the transformative question, is this feeling prompting me to tell myself a convenient lie to feel better right now? Or is it prompting me to become a better person? The return is as a more authentic, nuanced, resilient, and self-aware individual. She carries the knowledge that the relentless drive to reduce cognitive dissonance is a universal feature of human firmware, not a personal failing or weakness. The ultimate victory lies in consistently choosing conscious, often difficult, resolution over automatic, comforting reduction. This epic journey through our own minds reveals perhaps the most honest truth about our species. We are not primarily rational beings who sometimes feel. We are rationalizing beings who use reason in the dedicated service of our emotions and our need for a stable identity. Our most heroic, lifelong quest is not to avoid inner conflict at all costs, but to learn to navigate its treacherous waters with eyes wide open. To gather the relentless courage to question the elaborate, self-serving stories our minds spin to protect our egos, and to pick up the pen day after day to consciously, deliberately author a truer, more demanding, and ultimately more magnificent story in their place. The winding, challenging, and revelatory path through cognitive dissonance is, in the final analysis, the only path that leads to becoming the conscious, courageous, and authentic author of your own one precious life.